You have it printed here.
Yeah.
Just give me a second, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Johnson,
No
as,
request.
as you're looking, if we can
Yes.
just introduce, we have
Please.
Mr. Stifler and Mrs. Dissinger, who are new to our team, supporting Dr. Musser and Dr. Dandridge. So they'll be rotating in and taking turns. But they're both here tonight for the first
Welcome.
meeting.
And we have no rest.
Right, yeah, I did know that. No, there are no residence requests tonight, and yeah, we're moving on, Dr. Dandridge. Brain tracks.
As I reported last month, as we are finishing up the ESSER grant, the area where we're looking to finish spending some money was in the social emotional learning category. At the middle level, the team has been examining a couple different programs and has recently landed on Brain Tracks as a program that they are going to be implementing this coming year at the middle level to help middle school students with some executive functioning skills. So Dr. Mumma is here to share a little bit about Brain Tracks. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about Brain Tracks, and the program helps us build executive functioning skills in our students. So the mission of Brain Tracks is to help teachers and family members learn strategies to help students develop better executive functioning skills for greater school success. Brain Tracks identifies 8 executive functioning skills, and those 8 skills are self-regulation, organization, planning, prioritization, and time management, task initiation, attention, metacognition, cognitive flexibility, and memory. So over the past several years, I've met with many families, and families talk to me about their concern for their students. They will bring up things like at home, their students leaving work until the very last minute. They're learning of projects the night before the project is due, that there's a struggle for their son or daughter to start or complete their assignments. They will talk to me like, I saw them complete the assignment. Are you telling me they didn't hand it in or they didn't submit it on Schoology? There are a lot of discussions about organization with families where students are disorganized, losing papers that we send home, can't find things on Schoology. Conversations where students are struggling to resist any online distractions, that when we're asking them to go to a certain place on their iPad, they're wandering off to a different site. And that there's discussions that their student does not know how to study. And what their concern is, they're seeing that their grades are not as high as they believe they should be, that their student is intelligent and just missing some of these skills that are affecting their academics. And with struggling with some of these skills, it is lowering their self-esteem, it's increasing stress, it's lowering or affecting their feelings about coming to school. It causes a strained relationship with the adults in the student's life, the teacher-student relationships, but also the parent-student relationship. And then also causing mental and physical health problems for the students. A lot of anxiety we're seeing with our students. So the Brain Tracks Foundation program, what they offer are 2 interactive workshops that are 90 minutes each for our teachers. Once teachers go through those training, those workshops, they provide a 60-minute leadership coaching session. And then they offer office hours daily for both teachers and administration to reach out. For parents, they offer a weekly webinar with a question and answer session at the end of each webinar. So there's benefits for everyone. There's benefits for the educators, there's benefits for students with this program, and there's benefits for our families. The benefits for our educators are that before the workshops start, our teachers will take a survey, and then the professional development is tailored to the needs of what the teachers are seeing with their students in their classrooms. For instruction, this is not an additional curriculum. What Brain Tracks is teaching are strategies and tools for teachers to use to teach their curriculum and help students improve their executive functioning skills. And with this, when we teach our students to be better at executive functioning skills, what it does is it helps our students focus, it helps their concentration, it helps them complete assignments and do the best they can in education, and it will help our teachers with classroom management. The benefits for the student outcomes, we will see an increase improvement in their academics and behavior, along with their social emotional health. There is a lot of stress involved for a student when they're not able to stay organized or complete assignments or remember to hand in assignments. But also what we're trying to do is improve.
Yep. And Dr. Mumma, so this sounds similar to a program that we rolled out a couple of years ago, and the name is escaping me.
Okay.
But there was some sort of program that was designed to address many of these same issues.
And was it at the middle school? Do you remember?
I'm not,
Because
so was it Swift maybe? Or what was the program a couple of years ago?
Is it Second Step that we've implemented
I
at the
think so.
elementary?
Yeah.
So we've implemented that at the elementary, and that goes K to 6. It was one of the programs I know the middle school looked at. Some of the content in the middle level, we weren't as thrilled about. So when they did their evaluation program, they chose Brain Tracks over that.
Okay, and this is different. It's
Correct.
designed differently for adolescents as opposed to younger students.
correct.
Okay.
They have a program for all three age levels: elementary, adolescents, and teenagers. And we would be using the program for middle school students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So benefits for students, we're hoping to get them ready for an adult life where they are able to stay organized, remember their appointments, be successful in careers. And then for families, those weekly webinars are teaching them strategies to help support their students at home, hopefully reducing any conflicts that are occurring during homework time, and also improving that family dynamic. So our plan is to use the ESSER funds like Dr. Dandridge mentioned. We are hoping on our first full day of in-service on September 27th to offer the 2 90-minute interactive workshops for teachers to attend. Us middle school principals would then attend the 60-minute leadership coaching session afterwards. That will be followed up with a year-long of communication to families for when those webinars are occurring and what topics will be discussed at the webinars. And then hopefully during those coaching sessions, it's my understanding that as principals at the middle school level, we will be able to create action plans for the year and years to come to help us continue our growth in learning how to help students with these skills. Okay, so thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Yes. First, anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the webinars for family members. Are they also recorded so that if people aren't able to join at that time, that the families will still have access to that information?
That I'm not sure. I remember asking about them that they wanted, because when I was talking, I'm like, is there any way we could do it in person? I'm a bit tired of Zoom.
Mhm.
And they said by offering Zoom, they're able to get more families involved. I did not ask about whether they'll be taped, I can definitely do that.
Are those Zooms specific to our district or are they more like a lot of?
They'll offer it to all schools who have purchased this program.
Okay, so it would all be at one time.
Yes.
Gotcha.
To follow up on that, I mean, if they say, oh, we weren't planning to record them, maybe we could instruct them to record.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, just, I mean, not ask them, so say, we want them recorded.
Yep. Then maybe I can have Kelly's help with posting that on our website.
Yeah, and pushing out those links.
So I have a couple questions. I know it's using ESSER funds, but how much is it going to cost?
Approximately $14,000.
So one-time cost?
Correct.
For how many years
For this year.
So,
only?
so my other question, this may sound simple-minded, but isn't this already part of what the teachers are supposed to be doing? Why do we need this additional program? Maybe for Mike?
I have a lot of teachers that are amazing and they will talk to me and say, Lisa, I write the homework on the whiteboard. I post it on the calendar in Schoology. I tell them to hit submit. And they're still struggling for students following through on some of these skills. And my understanding is that this program is going to help teachers improve our ability to help students this way.
Do we,
What we're doing now, we're still seeing students struggle. There's something we're missing.
do we have some neighboring schools that have used this and seen a big improvement? Do we have any examples that we can go to?
Brain Tracks did share with me some schools that have used them. They have mostly been in Boston and Florida and not in Pennsylvania. What was shared with me was some statements like reviews and then also some contact information from those school districts. They also shared some of the it comes with an online toolkit where there's some graphic organizers teachers can use and things of those sort.
So if we use this year in and year out in future years, there going to be no cost or it's just a one-time 14,000? That's it?
14,000 where my teachers will learn the strategies and tools to help kids. It's going to be up to leadership to help train those new students coming in or new teachers coming in so that they also can implement and use some of these strategies.
So Doug and Mike, could you want to chime in on this? My question?
Yeah.
Why we need this?
Sure. So I think it's we have the opportunity with ESSER funds to try this at a relatively low cost point in an area where we see a need. The training and the professional development that our staff is going to be getting is going to pay dividends for years. So that is a great way to support our staff. We can determine if the program is successful and really going well next year. We could support it in future years. If we do not pay in future years, I'm sure we wouldn't have access to things like the webinars for our families, and we can determine how much that's being used. But I think it complements a lot of things that we're doing in the district well.
Mike, do you have anything to add?
No, just the fact that, I mean, this has been a request from our teachers. This was a team that was looking for something to try and find ways to support what our teachers were asking for. So it's an opportunity to try something that they've been asking for and that has been reviewed by a team to see if it's something that would be successful or not. It does not require anything ongoing. We have the ability to stop if we find this is not successful. If we find it is successful and it's something we want to continue, then we either need to find additional grant funding or do something different and look at not doing something else moving forward to replace this with. This is simply for training at this point for our teachers to then take from the training and then bring it to their classrooms and bring it to life. And if our middle school teams, both middle school principals and assistant principals, will be able to monitor this, working with Dr. Musser and be able to report back if they think it's successful or not.
So would
Have a-
we just want, I'm sorry, I'll let you go,
Go
Justin.
ahead, you finish.
So could we get an update maybe in a couple months how this is going and not wait till the end of the year and like it failed or it did well? We got maybe in November, like?
Absolutely. November
Okay.
would probably be a good touch point. If we have everyone train in September, I should have some good information to share with you.
Okay. Excellent. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin.
You asked some of my questions, Mr. Maris, but I have a couple other questions. We talked about references, and I asked one question from a financial standpoint. What's the return on investment? Programs sound great all the time, but what's the utilization? So when I say return on investment, I mean, do we know what the utilization of those videos are and the engagement from parents? Because what I find is if parents are engaged, they're engaged. If they're not, they're not. So my question is, how does this program change those numbers? And do we have some data around that from some of the references? What has been their experience? And also, how does this fit into the use of time for training for our professional staff? I see there's some training time involved in this. What does that take them away from if we're spending 90 minutes, 60 minutes, or whatever that time frame is to educate them on this program? And then my third concern is still around the financial piece, and that is Mr. Bomersky responded to some of this. ESSER funds are temporary funds. What I tend to see happen, and I've said this in other meetings, you add a program, but we never want to take anything away. So once it's there, now it's 14,000 and oh, it'd be terrible to take something away, even if it's not being used or it's not very effective. We'll add it. It becomes part of our budget, which means that's $14,000 annually we don't have for something else. So I would need to know and understand a lot more information around the performance of this program, the utilization of it, to feel good about spending, doesn't matter if it's $14,000 or $1,000 on this program. And so I don't feel like I have nearly enough information to provide an answer around whether this makes sense at all. It all sounds good, but there's a lot of things in life that sound good, and they don't produce the results for the investment that you would expect. So I would definitely need to see a lot more. And also with some uncertainties with our financials and some unresolved issues with our financial position and some looming projects that make me hesitant to spend any additional dollars at this point.
So my understanding, so I get back to you what you need. You need to just see some data. Is this going to work or not? Like, right?
What's
My
the return
understanding.
on investment? What's the
Yeah.
parent engagement? Is it 5% or 10% of that
Okay.
group population? The references should be able to share that information. I would
Yeah.
think the company would have that data. So give us some averages,
Mhm.
not just that this is a great program. Because when I look at this, I say, yeah, it sounds great. I
Mhm.
could get behind it. But I've been around long enough to recognize that just because something sounds good doesn't necessarily mean it's effective and it's worth the spend.
Yeah.
I'm also concerned that Boston and Florida, are they similar to our area, our districts? Is there some districts that are similar to ours that we get the data from also?
Yeah, I think the important part here is this is to help our teachers. It's something our teachers are asking for. And so if we're not seeing the return on investment after training is done for our teachers and it's not being, either received well or it's not being successful in its implementation, then it has to stop. If it is, and we're finding success to it, to Mr. Wogmuth's point, then if there's no other revenue source coming in from a grant standpoint, then we have to look, and I would task Dr. Muster and Dr. Dandridge when we were looking at the curriculum budget, if we're saying now, if this is working and it's a priority, then are there things that aren't, and where can we find those dollars to make it even wash there, so that we're not spending additional dollars? Because one of the things that both of them did this past year was went back and started looking at, are there programs that we're using that either aren't effective or maybe aren't where we want them to be at this point? And so we stopped changing stopped doing some things for this current year because there were a lot of things going on in terms of, we brought Renaissance in, and Dr. Dandridge talked to you about that. Instead of doing all of these things here, we're now going to do Renaissance, and that allowed us to save some dollars as well through that process. So that is something that we have to be mindful of, and we've shared with the board that we would be doing moving forward.
With all due respect, I don't want to run a pilot for $14,000 when we don't have the data on utilization, and we can get that. I feel like that information should be something we need to have up front before making any decision, and not moving forward with any spend. I don't care what that number is. It's just unwise to do that when we can get utilization data and we can get information from the company and from the school districts that we have references for. I would rather see that data than say, let's run a trial, to your point, Mr. Bomersky. Let's run a 1 year. If it doesn't work, we'll get rid of it. Well, let's find out if it doesn't work before we do it, because it's not just the expense, it's time. And that time for training is time out of the classroom or time with replacements or time for administration that they're not spending doing something else. I'm not willing to waste that time, not 1 minute of it, when we maybe can get ahead of that decision.
I mean,
Okay.
Mr. Walker, I guess I'm sympathetic to those arguments, but isn't that the point of a pilot program? Is
Not when you have data.
But let me finish, please. You get into a situation where we've identified a potential need. They found something that may or may not work. The investment is relatively small. And they've said, okay, if this doesn't work, we're going to sunset it after a year. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm skeptical of these things, as most people know, but I'm also not going to prejudge it when it sounds like it's a relatively light lift to pilot it for you.
How many?
Is it not ineffective and unwise to gather the data about its effectiveness from previous users before we make a decision?
I can get that for you. I have that information. I didn't put it in my presentation. I'll forward it to you.
I felt like from the presentation, and like you said, you didn't include all that,
Mhm.
but this has been an ongoing discussion between most stakeholders, teachers, administration, people at this level, parents, kids who may be, trying to work on this and are still struggling. So it seems like, and then the ESSER funds being filtered for this purpose sounds like the perfect. And I think I agree with Grant when it seems like a very low commitment, because in the presentation, it was the teachers attending for a half day to get, information on this topic that it seems like it's affecting, kids and everyone around them. Seems like a low, whatever the term you used, Grant. It's not something that's going to take tons of time and tons of money, but could really help with an issue that seems to be ongoing and that our kids are struggling
I
with.
think it's more than the initial time, though. It's engaging in the program with the teachers and administrators. Can I ask a question? How many other programs were investigated to come up with this one? Did we look at a lot more?
We-
Mumma.
We spent a lot of time looking at second step, at the elementary level. I would honestly say 4 thoroughly. Honestly.
So I have a couple of questions. Is everybody else done first?
I just have some minor ones, but you go
Well,
and I can fill
I
it.
think you'll sort of dovetail. Number one, we always we're slow. We like more
Mhm.
advance notice.
Sure.
That all of a sudden, within a month, we have to have this. What's the deadline for expenditure of this particular portion of the ESSER funds for? I forget
September
what the-
30th.
Sorry?
September 30th.
September 30th. Wow. Okay. And the videos, is it just in English or are there some second language options for parents?
Right, I'm not sure about the
I mean,
language.
it's my understanding we do have a significant, I don't know we do have some who parents this would absolutely have no benefit to unless it's in a language that
Correct.
they can understand.
Correct.
When we piloted Second Step, was that just a 1-year thing and then we got regular reviews
That's great.
before we adopted it? And
Sure.
then we have discussed, in my recollection, several times how to transition from 5th, 6th grade to middle school, and Second Step didn't quite fit.
Mhm.
Am I remembering
correct.
that correctly?
You are correct.
Yep. There were
Mhm.
questions around some of the units and
Mhm.
whether it was really right for middle school, which is
Mhm.
why that was paused. And then the
Mhm.
teams were charged to kind of look what else is out there, what other
Mhm.
options are out there, and what else can we do.
So you said you looked at 4.
Correct.
And you had a team of people that you did that with.
Just middle
other
school,
professionals.
JP is my new assistant principal. He looked this summer with me,
Mhm.
and Eli Cox at Atlantisville Middle School.
So the 3 of you.
Correct.
What other programs, why did you not choose, can you summarize why you did not choose the other?
Both
3
LMS and CMS were having a lot of students struggling with those executive functioning skills. And this was the one program that focused on executive functioning skills. Everything else was social emotional. And so I feel strongly that our students need help in this area. I wish the past several years I took notes of how many families I talked to where their kids are struggling with these things. Our guidance counselors have so many 504s right now that for students who need this extra support because they can't focus, they can't stay organized. We're seeing a huge increase. Just today, I talked to Casey Tobias, my school counselor. She's like, Lisa, I have 20 504s. I said, Casey, how much did you used to have? She said, tops 14. And she goes, I'm just going into the school year with 20. Our students and parents, when I have these meetings, Linda, they feel, the parents feel frustrated and desperate. Like, how do I help my kid? I'm sitting there trying to do the homework. They're fighting me. They don't even know where to find it. And we're scratching our heads, and I'm taking them into school, G. I'm like, look at the calendar. Here's today's date. This is what the assignment is. I'm not even sitting in on this assignment or on this class, and I could tell what the homework is. I don't know what's happening right now with our kiddos, but it feels like they need help in this area. And I do believe we're seeing so much anxiety right now with our students, and mental health issues. And I feel like it's tied to not being able to manage
To
life.
not feeling successful.
Yeah,
So,
some of it, not all of it.
Mhm.
There's not all of it.
so in my ignorance, my girls have been out of school for quite a while and this was not an issue.
Right.
I'm not going to say it wasn't an issue. It was an issue we could handle. So, in the library, there was a resource class that used to be taught, like how to use the library and how to write a paper. and
Yeah.
Is that still ongoing? Is this totally different from that class?
Yeah, so
and how,
our librarians have a classroom and teachers bring in our students all the time.
but that's. for
And that's where they
specific
learn how to research, right?
Right.
What I'm talking about is our students are saying, okay, go to this website. And they're all switching and going to a different website to play a game. Like they can't resist that urge not to get
Sure.
to be distracted.
Mhm.
That the teacher says, okay, everybody turn to page 4. And we have to go around and to specific kids, we have to say, Doug, page 4, we're on page 4, Doug. All right, you too, Michael, over there. We need you on page 4. Students are not focusing. They're distracted. They're going home. They don't know what the homework is. And this program was, and this is not research, but they were on Good Morning America with positive talks about it. And I'll pass on easily when I get home, within a half hour of what was shared with me from other school districts. I can easily share that.
Okay.
I should have included in my PowerPoint.
This board, if you come to enough meetings, it's like we want lots of information, especially if there's any dollars involved, whether they're ESSERs or not. And we do want the best quality for our teachers and our students and the best training
Absolutely.
available for that. Absolutely.
And I believe that. I do.
And I appreciate that that. I understand the angst that, gosh, are we going to spend this money or not? I hate to lose it. And if we make a commitment as a board to not, to get these evaluations from you on a regular basis with this statistics and data that will help us the most. And I'm sure that Justin and Charles and Grant, whoever else can let you know that information. And then we make a commitment to reevaluate based on that, whether we commit again or not. I don't know if that's a fair thing. I just, or if that's the right way to go, I don't know. So, depends on the will of the board here.
I'd like to, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, I was also I had a couple of other questions. I just want to make sure, but go ahead. Yeah.
If this is ESSER funds that have to be used before the end of the year,
30th of
oh
September.
yeah, by the end of September, excuse me, and we don't use it for this, is there a plan to use it for anything else? And what is the harm? I know Mr. Walker was concerned about time. This is on an in-service day where the teachers aren't in the classroom, correct?
Correct.
That you've already planned into your training schedule for the year of the other trainings that they're required
Mhm.
to complete. I know as a teacher, no matter how many classes I took, teacher training programs are notoriously weak on classroom management. And a lot of especially new teachers come in having that need for extra classroom management training. And no matter how seasoned you are, the problems change and how to manage them change. And I can hear in your voice your need for this. I don't see a harm if the ESSER dollars are there and will otherwise go unspent, and giving the middle school staff something at least to try.
I agree with Mr. Wogomuth in that it's not just the money, it's not just the ESSER funds. If this isn't the right thing, we're going to waste a lot of effort and time to do it. And we want to make sure it is the right thing, at least have some data up front. So it's not just about the money and the ESSER funds, it's about making sure, because we're going to put some effort into this, it's going to take some time. And if it's not the right thing, then maybe we wasted the time where we could have put something different in that's better.
I have another question, and this is because I don't fully understand this program. How is this going to wrap into it's just the teachers are getting training and then they take that back to the classroom without affecting any student's schedule?
One of the things that I was attracted to about this program when Dr. Mumma brought it forward is sometimes these companies bring these prepackaged lessons to you that you just implement in the classroom and the teachers share it. That's not what we're talking about here when we talk about this program. We're really training our staff on some strategies for executive functioning skills. That is a need that we do have data on that our staff have been asking for a while, that we have recognized and seen as a need in our students. So giving them these strategies that they will use to implement in their already planned lessons that they're implementing in the classroom, to me, made a lot of sense. I think you're asking great questions, and I do feel there's some things that we can bring back to help this decision before it is voted on. I want to make sure you're completely comfortable with anything that we are putting forward. But the skills that we're talking about, these executive functioning skills, which is on slide 3, is talking about things like time management and organization. Like you're speaking about middle school students, right? And the things that they need to learn to be successful in life. We are not talking about bringing in SEL prepackaged lessons that we're going to plop in a teacher's lap that they have to teach and take time away from the content that they're already delivering in the classroom. That is not what Brain Tracks is about. So just to be clear on that, when we're saying program, it might get confused with some programs that we've used in the past like that.
Knowing we have the ESSER funds and still being a little bit concerned about the relevance of the program, I think it still will be helpful if you can gather that information that we talked about. I would be a little bit more open to considering this if the motion to approve this had a hard stop as part of it, 1 year only, and was crystal clear that it would not continue beyond that unless it came back to the board for a complete review. And so that would assure me that it's not going to end up as part of the budget beyond the time and be an ineffective program because we forget to reevaluate. It's only $14,000. I've heard that a million times. It's only 1,000. It's only $5 for a coffee per day times 365 days a year. At the end of the day, it all adds up and it takes away from something else. And we do have some unresolved financials that we don't know how that's going to shake out. And that's always weighing in the back of my mind as we consider even $1,000 spend right now.
I had one other question. Is it a true statement that some teachers do a lot better with these issues than others? Or is this a problem more with the students? It doesn't matter what teacher. What would you say? Well, because I think my guess is they don't teach this at Millersville or undergrad for education. This is something you have to learn.
I can answer that, going to Millersville for education and being in the classroom. You get maybe one class on classroom management I had. I think things have changed.
Mhm.
I think what Dr. Mumma said about, because I see this in my own children, about it then becoming more of a mental health or a confidence issue is the really concerning part. It's not a making a mistake, figuring it out, and moving on. It really is something that if it's not addressed carefully and with maybe a different, I feel like this isn't giving you one option, like what Dr. Dandridge said. It's giving you a menu of things to try with different students that may need different things. And for any teacher, that kind of refresher or different ideas for every different type of student that you're encountering all day is great. And I a half a day of training and kind of taking this throughout the middle school and doing it for a year sounds like not a lot of time and not taking away from another area, which we're always worried about. So, I mean, from a teaching perspective and a parent perspective in the district with kids at this level, it seems like it's trying to hit every stakeholder in the way that they need. And then I think we should see data coming back from just Hempfield and just the middle schools to see what is going on from all those stakeholders, parents who've watched the webinar, numbers of who have watched it, from you guys as administrators, from your teachers, from students. They may have, something that really worked for them, something that did not. I think that's all important to listen to.
So one other question is, when we do this, will teachers be able to collaborate? Because the structure of, it's you and an assistant principal over how many teachers? That's not
55.
you've
At
got
Centerville
too many
Middle School.
people. Will teachers be able to collaborate and work together on this to help each other? Because you just plop somebody, they go to a seminar, okay, go do it. But you got to be able to bounce ideas. Is that part of the?
Oh, we have
process?
we have the benefit of team meetings at our middle
Mhm.
school level. So our
And this will
teachers
be
meet
discussed in the team meeting?
definitely.
Okay, good.
How about if we do this? Just to wrap this up, I think,
Uh-huh.
unless we have any other questions, bring us
I
back.
just
a-
have
oh,
one technical question. Are you looking for an approval on this, or is this
No.
something you're planning on just doing?
I think there's a vote later on this in
And I'm sorry,
September.
Dr. Mumal, my one hearing aid battery kicked out,
Sorry.
so.
I know that. I'm sorry. So I thought we were voting September 10th. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so that answers my
Mhm.
question. Just to wrap this up, bring that information back to us. I don't know if we need to hear that before we vote, like.
I was
it's
just
an
going to meet,
extra
can
in
I
one of the
email all of you?
meetings.
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks.
That would be
I could do
fine.
that when I get home.
And then we will have a vote on it on the next board meeting.
Mhm.
Then,
Okay. And I think to amplify Mr. Walgamov's point, the motion should probably be explicitly for 1 year, absent and requiring further board action to extend.
isn't that up to us?
Well, right, but I
Board
just,
members, right?
yes, that's up to us, but I'm trying to avoid making motions to amend the agenda. I'm trying to move ahead, I'm trying to think ahead
Don't forget.
and not making motions to amend the agenda midstream.
We have the ability to record all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll make sure Dr. Dandridge
Sure.
will verify in
Mhm.
working
Yeah.
through this, that the agenda item motion to approve, after you get all the information, will be to implement this for 1 year. List the dates,
Mhm.
and that if it were to continue, it would need to come back to the full board. for review and approval, so that it won't be in the budget.
Okay,
And like I said, they talked about some updates, maybe like November, January, February, so that we see how it's going and not wait till the end of the year and find out.
absolutely. We do that for every program.
Yeah, I can
so,
do that.
Okay.
I don't even know if we'll have a second step review. We usually get one of those every year too.
Okay,
If there's nothing else. Thank
Right.
you, Dr.
thank
Moon.
you. Yep.
Appreciate it. Next, Dr. Dandridge.
All right, and our second presentation this evening, wanted to give you a preview of the school year and really our focus, some of the administrative focus, as well as some of the different things that you'll be looking at as we go through the 2024-25 school year. A couple items in here you've probably heard about, some may be newer, and we may be having fuller presentations in upcoming ed programs. This is more a high level of some of the things that we are focused on this year as a district. So last week we kicked off our admin camp and we presented to all the Act 93 administrators some of our focus for the year. The focus for the admin team and for the Act 93 team is on excellence and accountability. Last year, our focus was service. We have 10 or 11 different items out there that Mr. Pomersky has been working with our team on. Our focus this year, like I said, is in that area. The 3 goal areas that all members of Act 93 are writing their goals on are going to be centered around communication and culture, on academic progress or departmental progress in the operations world, and then improving or strengthening their personal leadership. So all of our members will have a goal in each of those areas that we'll be working on throughout the year. Like I said, last year's focus was on service, so it's a nice little bridge there from service to bring in the accountability piece and make sure that we have the supports in place so we can provide excellent service for the district. Some of the items that we are going to have consistency with across the district this year. We've been talking about it and implemented it last year, but now K-12, we do have a step system in place, an elementary step system, a middle school step system, and a high school step system to help address minor behaviors before they become office referrals. Consistent language, which will include reporting in our student information system. And now that we will be recording that, we'll also where we'll be headed from here next is be able to pull that data out, export that data out, and have some proactive conversations in our data team meetings to hopefully get ahead of some of those minor behaviors if we see trends that we need to address. Bullying and cyberbullying obviously is a topic that we talk about a lot, is a focus for us in the district. We have a number of different areas that we are looking to address bullying and cyberbullying this year. Mr. Pomersky has been working with McGrath to provide some training for Hempfield. We've kind of gotten in the ground level there where they're going to customize a lot of the training for our district. So we are working with that company and getting.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that the company you were talking about?
That is
I
correct.
thought you said it's going to take a year to develop it. And
So we are doing pieces. We have
okay,
part of our opening day, as I shared the other day, there's required state training, and I have to get to choose on various topics. So
Okay.
one of the topics within that morning is going to be on bullying awareness. We are bringing back Agent Mitchell from the Attorney General's office.
You got it.
And then the other part is we have administrators who will be getting trained. We'll be attending a 3-day training on different topics and training pieces. We'll be able to do and have training for staff. What we are going to be building over the course of the year is training for students, K-12.
Okay.
That's what we're working with the
so
company.
you're kind of interspersing some of it now, and then I know you said it wasn't
Yep. So we're
written
gonna have to work in
correctly
phases.
for today's age, and
Correct.
but then if this works well, then
Yep.
it will be a kind of a full-fledged
Yep.
program next year.
So after, I believe there's 8 of us who'll be attending the training. We will then be training all district leaders and then training and scaling it down to training in the buildings for staff, all staff. And then we'll be working our way to students. So it's going to be a multi-year process. But we have full control and working with McGrath on what that's going to look like.
Excellent. Thank you.
And some of the work that we've done with SEL over the years, in the elementary second steps, the name you're familiar with, and the middle school was looking at brain tracks as a possible solution. Again, is to help create that positive school environment, to help reduce the bullying and cyberbullying that's going on. So those are some of the items that we're working on to help address bullying and cyberbullying. And then one of the other items we've talked a little bit about over the past couple of years, Ms. Dicely, Mr. Hoffman, and the team are pretty focused on our new science standards that the state has brought on for full implementation next year. They're referred to as STEELS. You can see the acronym there: Science, Technology, and Engineering, Environmental Literacy, and Sustainability. So we do have a couple pilots that are going on this current year. The middle school has aligned their curriculum to STEELS this year. Biology, we're working on for an implementation next year. We are going to do a pilot in the elementary grade levels for the second half of the year. And it also, the STEELS implementation also has triggered a change in the science PSSAs in the elementary. It's now moving from 4th grade to 5th grade. That is happening this year. So you'll be hearing some more about that as we go through the year. So those are some of the things district-wide that we are focusing on. And then each of the levels, I have a couple items there. If you go to the next slide, Mr. Graham.
You tell me, you did throw out, so does brain
Sorry.
tracks supposed to help with bullying?
So what it does is it's teaching executive functioning. It's focused on classroom environment and trying to help students be successful so that you don't have bullying type behaviors start to show up in the
That can,
classroom.
yeah, that can quickly happen if a student, say, is always forgetting something in the classroom.
I got you.
And then that gets zoned in as, you know.
It is not a direct bullying behavior, but it is addressing
help in
behaviors
reducing
that
bullying.
will reduce bullying and cyberbullying.
Dr. Dennis, to go back to the step system.
Yeah.
Very briefly, what is that? Is this something that's going to lessen the load on the faculty to deal with minor issues? And will each faculty member have the discretion to deal with minor disciplinary issues in their classroom as they deem appropriate?
Yeah, it's to provide some consistency so that we don't have one teacher handling a behavior one way and the teacher next door handling it a different way. So the step system basically has 5 levels to it at the elementary. It might start with just a warning for a behavior. The second step, I'm going to give a warning and a call home. And the next step might be a written reflection from the student. So there are incremental steps that will be then tracked in our student information system. The advantage on the back end for our data teams is we'll be able to pull out that data, see what behaviors are showing up in the classroom. We are seeing that, like right before lunchtime, we're getting a lot of disruptions in the classroom or in the hallway, or as I'm heading to recess. We'll be able to pull that data so that we can then do some proactive programming to try and eliminate that behavior, teach it better before it happens.
Okay, it just sounds like we're creating additional administrative steps that might not be necessary for low-level infractions.
Yeah.
And I'd rather the faculty just deal with them rather than spending time entering them into a computer system and all that.
We worked with staff to develop these steps, and they are asking for some of this consistency as well. Yes, there is a little bit of logging and data record keeping that needs to happen, but that also will pay dividends when we can now have that data to pull and do some proactive work. So it is a trade-off.
And Mr. Keener, I recall as a board, we talked about this
Yeah,
and
that's what we
struggled
did.
with the fact that we didn't have good data and consistency. And so I think
Yeah.
this is an attempt to garner that consistency and create some accountability around those steps. So I feel like, we're headed the right direction related to it.
How
No,
long ago
and I agree that generally consistency is not a bad thing. But my only concern is that the tracking and the documentation not become an administrative burden that takes away from core instructional time.
No,
I would
that's
rather
great.
the faculty spend time teaching and mentoring than filling out forms. That's my point.
And maybe once this is solidified, sometimes then you can back away from that. But for a while, not being too critical, we really didn't have any consistency or any process for this. And so I think we have to get that in place. And then if things are going well, maybe, there's a consideration, you bring back a recommendation that we can step away from some, what you might call, Mr. Keener, busy work.
As we know, if we address the minor behaviors before they become larger, the whole system's going to work better, more efficiently. So that's really the goal.
Dr. Muster, can I ask you a question? Or Dr. Dandridge?
Yeah.
Your name tag is sticking right out in the front there.
On me.
I apologize. With the STEP system being input online and the data ability, is that something that other teachers are going to be able to see? Like, I have a student that I'm having problems with in first period. Is the fifth period teacher going to be able to see what's been entered so that we're seeing it's not just me, or it's not just my class, like in real time, rather than having down the road data analysis?
No, there are some privacy and some confidentiality items that really the teacher is logging the behaviors that they're seeing in their classroom. They will then follow up with conversations. A lot of time that's the data team meetings, or the principal is bringing teams together who are working with that student, but they are not automatically getting access to their full history of behavior data in PowerSchool. We want to make sure that we're respecting the privacy of the students with that.
The results you're seeking, though, are there with administration being able to say, yes, we're seeing this consistently across morning classes, not in the afternoon, vice versa, so that tying all the behavior together is there. It's just not incumbent upon the teacher, to Mr. Keener's point. And again, some of the input of some of the traditional disciplines, some of the going through the windows and all the systems, like that took significant time too.
Right.
So depending on how they're working through the steps, there's actually less of that as we're going on those earlier steps. When you get up into the actual system, then we're spending a little bit more time reporting things in the system.
It seems to me that this helps reduce the randomness of all of a sudden, maybe you let a kid slide and then all of a sudden there's like this big thing and it's like, well, you're not being fair to me.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Or how come I get called out all the time and that kid doesn't?
Or if it's
So-
something very like time of day, you were
Well, when you mention
alluding
that,
to
it's
that,
like
at the end of the day, this is when it's happening and they're struggling, they're hungry, or, I mean,
I know, I just spent
And
a
to-
week with my 4 and 5-year-old and there is this
You-
grandchildren, if they are not fed by a certain time in the morning, we might as well just, it doesn't go well, put it that way, so.
All right, so looking at the elementary, some of the focuses in our elementary buildings. Obviously, this is year one of implementing an ELA curriculum. So there's been a lot of professional development this summer and in August here as the teachers prepare to implement wit and wisdom in the classroom. Junior achievement is something that I'm sure you've heard about in the district. In grade 6, our students have gone to BizTown, which is a great program over there in New York. Junior Achievement partners with us to provide that for all of our buildings. We do have the YES program in the middle level. We have the STEM Academy at the high school. We are now adding lessons for grades K through 5 in Junior Achievement. What that entails are 5 lessons throughout the year. You bring in community members, parents, to volunteer and to provide lessons on financial literacy and career awareness. So now we'll have a continuum K all the way up to the high school of junior achievement being happening in each of the levels. So that'll be new for us this year. We've talked about Renaissance a little bit. We have a new diagnostic assessment that we are using called Renaissance, the STAR assessment. Which will really put some great data at the fingertips of our teachers. We're really excited about that product. And then Lilo and Freckle are the instructional paths that students can use in the classroom that build off of the STAR data. They'll be using that in the elementary and in the middle schools in order to build upon some of the skill deficits that they might have. And then one additional item is PVAS is a tool from the state where we get growth data. In the past, it's always been our PSSA data. We've been able to see the students' growth based on a couple of years worth of PSSA data. PVAS has now given us the ability to upload our own local data into the system. And so now last year we added our exact path data and our Acadians data to give a fuller picture of students' academic growth, not just their achievement. So we're looking forward to incorporating that data into our team meetings and really have some better assessments of where student needs might be.
Before you go to the next slide, I spoke with Mr. Hoffman before the meeting. Could you, if you don't mind, give us an update on the wit and wisdom training that's been going on and enthusiasm, et cetera? Thanks for letting me put you on the spot.
Sure. Yeah, so our teachers have had opportunity to do 2 days of training for wit and wisdom this summer. As we know, we can't make them come in over the summers. I was telling Mrs. Johnston, like 98% of the teachers came in and completed that training over the summer. So we have another training going on next Tuesday and Wednesday for the teachers who didn't complete the training or any new hires that happened after the trainings occurred. But like I said, tons and tons of teachers were here for the training, found it very valuable. They had a chance to work with the 2 embedded coaches who will be here throughout the school year as well at our last training. They had a chance to sit down and do some individual work with some teachers and some grade level teams. So really positive trainings happened. We have materials in teachers' hands for the first module and they're all ready to go. So we're in good shape. They will have, the majority of teachers will have time on Tuesday afternoon to meet in district grade level teams. Pilot teachers will be able to share some of the things they learned during their years of piloting. And then on Wednesday, teachers will be in their buildings with their own grade level teams, doing planning and getting things ready to kick off the year. So we're in good shape to get started with the new ELA program.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. At the middle level, so you heard me talk a little bit about the new science standards. The middle levels on the forefront of this, they are going to be implementing, and we're able to implement those new standards into their curriculum this year. So we'll be getting some feedback on how that's going. It does change some instructional practices. There's a lot of work that went into that implementation this year. So we're excited to see how it goes. We are very excited that with some of the grant funding that we were able to hire a second SRO for the district, and that individual, Officer Brown, will be working between the 2 middle schools. So that he will be starting around November, December timeline. However, before he gets to being in our schools every day, I know he's going to be doing some day shift work, and he is going to be in our schools and walking the halls and getting to know the students and staff and community. So that's going to be great opportunity for our middle schools. You heard some about Brain Tracks tonight, which is one of the programs that they would like to implement this coming year. And we do have some new leadership at the middle level. So Mr. Cox was promoted this summer at LMS and will be the new principal at LMS. Mr. Paul is coming on board at CMS, and we are working on filling that last vacancy, assistant principal at LMS, and hope to have that to the board just as soon as we can. So a lot of exciting things at the middle level. At the high school,
Silly question. Who are the people in the picture on the
they're
left
just some
side?
stock images.
What?
It's not any of Hempfield
Okay.
administrators
I mean-
or East Hempfield SRO or anything like that. Sorry,
Oh.
I didn't get a picture that authentic for you, but
Might be nice to use our own employees.
as soon as we get them in, I'll get a picture of them for you. You're not going to miss Officer Brown. He's an imposing individual. So, but excited to have him on board. High school focus. So last year, I'm sure you heard Dr. Brossman talk quite often about raising the bar was their theme. Their theme this year is all in, and that came from a motivational speaker that they had. I know several of you probably heard him last year. It was John Paul Gonzalez. Who worked with the Giants and gave a motivational speech about being all in. So that is their theme for the year. Like I said, I'm sure you'll hear Dr. Brossman use it quite often. One of the new things that they are adding this year at the high school is a step-up day. So the day before on the 21st, I believe, the ninth grade students are going to come to school and be able to interact with the administration and with staff and really have a day in the building before all 2,000 plus students arrive to get to know the building, to learn the layout, and to really have a nice transition into the high school. So we're hoping that that will be a successful day.
Also great practice for our bus drivers. So we'll be running all of our routes that day. So day one, we hopefully won't miss anybody.
We're providing breakfast and lunch for students on that day. So lots of good opportunities for them to be exposed to the high school since that will be a new environment for them. One of the other items that the high school administration has been working on is creating some additional student leadership opportunities. So their Win 5 time is when they typically run clubs that staff members have organized in the past. This year, they are providing the opportunities for students to propose and create their own clubs. They have some requirements. They have to have a faculty advisor. They have to get leadership. They have to have agendas for their club time. So real nice opportunity to engage students in that win time and allow them to be able to create some opportunities in interest areas that they have. And as I know you've heard Ms. Dicely talk to you about several times, we're really focused on expanding those CHS or college in the high school courses. We're very excited that we'll be offering all the ones that are on the slide there this coming year: college algebra, business calc, intro to human nutrition, 3 of our business classes, and the AP Lang and composition course will also be available for CHS credit. I believe that's the University of Pittsburgh's argument class. So lots of opportunities for our students to be earning college credits while they are in our high school before they graduate. Some of the supports that we have that will be helping to implement these things throughout the year. School Links and Zello are our products for career readiness and career awareness, and tracks our artifacts. Zello we've used for a number of years and will continue in the elementary. School Links is a product that you'll be hearing about. We've done an evaluation over the past year, and we'll be using that at the secondary level. There's a couple advantages to the older students in School Links. We'll be bringing a presentation back to you in the coming months so that you can hear a little bit more about how that's going. In terms of our curriculum writing cycle, the writing year, which is one of the heavier years, or year 2, is with our gifted departments, our health and phys ed departments, and in our elementary science departments. So those departments will be focused on writing some new curriculums to be implementing next year. So you'll be hearing about those throughout the coming year. End of last year, we shared some of the Schoology expectations that we pushed out district-wide to the staff. We are also updating and refreshing a lesson plan memo, and you'll be hearing in the policy portion of the meeting, the lesson plan policy is getting a quick review this evening as well. So some consistency there district-wide. We are also implementing and have been working on a new professional learning plan. We've been doing a lot of great professional development in the district over the years, but after some feedback with the committee, we felt that we put some more structure around it. So we are implementing a 3-year PLP, professional learning plan, for staff. We have a series of, I think, 15 or so required workshops that they'll have to take throughout the course of those 3 years. and share that with their administrators. And there are then extension workshops that we'll be offering as well. So allowing us to provide some consistent workshops, experiences for all of our staff. Our administrators and staff have been developing those this summer, and we will be rolling that out next week with all staff. And finally, the state has blessed us with implementing PSSAs and Keystones online starting next year. All districts across the state are going to be required to transition their paper and pencil PSSA and Keystone assessments to an online assessment. So we are going to be piloting that this year in the grade levels that you see up on the screen. Grade 5 science, grade 8 science, and our 10th grade literature Keystone. We're going to pilot the online PSAs and Keystones so that we get some experience on creating the tickets online administratively and our students using the iPads to take those assessments and what it's like to get that data back in with a quicker turnaround time. So that'll be one of the new items that we'll be working through as we get to the second half of the year.
I have just random question.
Go for it.
What happens if the scores are really low?
So there have been some schools that we've heard from that have had a bit of a roller coaster as they transition to online PSSAs. We've had some that went online who saw their scores tank, went all back to paper and pencil. We saw some that said there was a 2-year transition until their scores really got back to a level that were similar to their paper and pencil. The state has told us all of the advantages for taking this online and why we are moving in this direction. So we are putting our efforts behind it, but it is an open question as to what will happen. I'm sure we'll be monitoring the scores statewide to see what impact this decision has.
The state's been kindly suggesting for the last couple years, even during the audit process, to really move online, and we've been hesitant to do so. But one of the things is I'm always trying to, find the sunshine is it does help with the chain of custody for the tests, the security pieces, the mass shipping, the storing, all the test protocols, because it's a ticket and it's online, and it's a lot easier that way. But we do have to worry about iPads being fully charged, power blocks, some of those things, which is why we're going to pilot it in a small subset so that when we fully go online, that we have all the tools we need at our disposal.
They're also working on some different test design for questions. They're looking at some drag and drop formats, some different non-traditional test questions that you wouldn't be able to replicate well with a paper and pencil. So they are trying to be adaptive, and we'll see how it goes.
Those of you that know me, I don't have any paper. I never have any paper. I go everywhere with this. So I fought this as long as we can, but we're going to be ready.
I understand, but we also just had a presentation for, what's the name of it? Brain Tracks?
Mhm.
How kids are not organized and they can't
Okay.
stay on the right page and anyway, and mental health, and if the grades, the scores drop, I don't think parents or kids are going to be very happy anyway. And that's my naysaying.
Sure.
We have to do what we have to do.
We do.
Like I said, this was a little high level, just giving you a flavor for some of the focuses at across the district and at each of the levels. Certainly, if you have any additional questions, be happy to answer them. But some of those, like I said, will be coming back in future meetings for more in-depth presentation.
Any questions or comments? All right, I believe that concludes our portion, the end of our committee meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Before we proceed to the policy, personnel, and legal part, let's take a brief recess and we'll reconvene at 6:15.
No, no.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Before we proceed with the Policy, Personnel, and Legal Committee, I want to announce that there will be a brief executive session following this meeting for the purpose of contract negotiations. So at the end of the meeting, I will need a motion to adjourn to executive session. With that, we will move on to the policies for first reading consideration, starting with 111 lesson plans. Dr. Musser.
Sure, Mr. Keener, if I can just, again, briefly outline the policies that we're talking about tonight. This was slated to have some other policies on, which we'll talk a little bit more in the discussion area, but it will be a rather brief actual policy section for first reading tonight. So as Dr. Dandridge mentioned, we redid the memo for the staff along lesson planning. So we also wanted to make sure that even though it is a 111 and we're working in the 300s right now, that we updated the lesson plan memo as it was last updated in 2016. As you can see, it is a very, very small change. We really wanted to just drive home both in the memo and in policy that lesson plans must be available at all times. The policy was really set to make sure that it was available for substitutes, and it was kind of assumed that it was ready for others that were doing walkthroughs or performing observations because it's part of the process and clinical supervision. But we wanted to just make sure that that was clear in policy and made sure that it flowed naturally with the memo as well. So that's why we're suggesting the small revision here. All the other language is consistent with most 111s in the area and across the state.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about the modification of policy 111?
I guess my only question would be, is there a prescribed format that the lesson plans have to be available in, or is that teacher preference?
So it's largely teacher preference, and in the memo, it's kind of outlined. These are the key pieces that we're looking to see. We don't even necessarily, again, going back to me not liking paper, we don't even need it in paper per se. It just needs to have the right areas in it so that a sub can come in and pick up and handle the business for that class.
I have one question / suggestion. I almost would like to see this phrased around the form of each lesson plan is within the professional discretion of each faculty member. However, they must include sufficient information to allow a substitute or other individual to continue with a seamless, uninterrupted instruction. In other words, instead of saying they must conform to the guidelines established by administration, make clear that different faculty members may choose to write lesson plans differently, and that's okay, as long as there's sufficient baseline information to let someone step in and teach the class.
I certainly understand where you're coming from, but if the memo really does outline it, that is in the guidelines
The
that.
memo is not policy.
Correct, but it's referring to the memo as our guidelines.
Does under delegation of responsibilities, paragraph 3, in essence, say what you're saying, Mr. Keener?
Yeah.
Because it feels like paragraph 3 under delegation of responsibilities somewhat outlines what you just said.
Yeah, that and the memo together, I think, covers it.
And I also don't want to create solutions for problems that don't exist. I just don't want these to perhaps be overly prescribed.
It hasn't been an issue for the district in the past. We're simply updating both the memo and the policy just out of it's been a long time. Has not presented an issue. It's not like we are seeing concerns with subs coming in. With the number of subs that we all know we're addressing now, they're not short lesson planning, more of just an update.
Okay, since there's de minimis changes only, any objection, we'll move this, without objection, we'll move this directly to second reading. All right, 308.
Yes, so 308, 309, and 310 are all within that HR lens that we've been working through in the 300 levels. I did have them reviewed by the HR team here at Hempfield to make sure that they're still consistent with the practices we're using. They had no suggested revisions. I did check them with other current policies in the area. We are up to date, and at this point, we're looking just to do a revision date on those policies.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns about 308, 309, or 310? All right, we will move 308, 309, and 310 to second reading. And finally, 918, Title I, Family Engagement.
So 918 is one of those policies that is required to be updated every year, and I will defer to Dr. Dandridge.
Yeah, so when we receive our Title I funds, we are required to have family engagement as part of those funds, a use of those funds. And we're required to work with our families about what that looks like. That is what 918 is all about. We are not recommending any changes. It has been working successfully for us in the district. Each of the schools have to also develop their own family and engagement policies and compacts, which they do with their PTOs throughout the year. But like I said, it is a requirement that we review this annually and can demonstrate that. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
All right, questions or concerns with 918? All right, we'll move 918 directly to second reading. That concludes the policy piece. Normally, we would be starting to look at all the Title IX policies in furtherance of the revised Title IX guidance that came down from the federal government. However, those policies are on hold because Hempfield is included in a list of enjoined schools pursuant to some litigation out of the U.S. District Court for the District of Kansas. The reason for that, my understanding, and Dr. Musser, I think has additional information, is the national organization Moms for Liberty so basically intervened in the suit. Since Hempfield has an active Moms for Liberty chapter, we were included on the list of school districts that were enjoined from considering these policies while this litigation plays out in Kansas. It's entirely possible this will get overturned by, I guess, what, the 8th Circuit, Kansas is in the 8th Circuit. But for right now, we are prohibited from engaging in a policy development process around the revised Title IX guidance, and instead are continuing to follow the 2020 Title IX guidance from the Trump administration.
Yeah, very well said, Mr. Keener. Again, I just wanted to assure the community and the board that this is not the district opting out of our Title IX obligations. If something would occur, the same reporting structure with the 2020 structure would occur, the investigation would occur, the procedures would occur. We will continue to monitor that. If any case even comes up that even meets any Title IX definition, we will also be consulting the solicitor as to application for the different policies at this point. But right now, because of the state of, and this list is also changing, and they'll be updating this list regularly as different chapters come on. So we're going to continue to monitor, but in the meantime, to Mr. Keener's point, we'll be running under the 2020 regs. They're a little more onerous for the district. It's not a benefit to the district to be running under the 2020 regs. But we will be running under them, and we'll make sure that we're upholding our Title IX responsibilities. And I just want to make sure the community and board understands that, regardless of where this goes.
And this, as I shared with you already, there was a document provided by our solicitor's office. So all of you have that information, which outlined all of this information.
Does anyone have any questions around essentially the suspension of the Title IX revisions pending the resolution of the Kansas litigation?
I just have a question for Dr. Musser. Dr. Musser, what exactly did you mean by it's not a benefit to be functioning under the 2020 Title IX related to the revisions?
This isn't the district making a choice to participate or not to participate. Some of the revisions in the 2024 actually lessen some of the procedural responsibilities of the school district. So there are some bonuses from definition side and from a procedural side to the new Title IX. I just want to make sure that the board and the community knows that it's part of the legal action that is preventing us from doing this. It's not any benefit to the district.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? All right. Schedule of upcoming meetings. You can see our next policy meeting will end, and program meeting will be September 19th. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Johnson, second.
Second.
second by Mrs. Eshelman. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.